the topic of today's video is giving your games like that razzle dazzle, you know, that pizzazz, that like ooh, and then making your players and making might be the wrong term for it, but you know, getting your players interested and holding their attention, grabbing their attention in the first place, and then getting them interested, right? So I would say that for me, one of the things that I like to do is I am a bit of a show person. I'm super open about it. Okay, good. As long as it's quiet. I'd rather it be too quiet than too loud. I can even turn it up just a little bit here. There we go. And then once again, if folks want to, in the chat at any point, as I raise or lower the volume or kind of figure out, let's see, is just a bit distracting, so the chat oh, okay. So let's put it there. I've lowered it. Okay, so yeah, they wanted to know, as far as getting your players' attention, giving them the razzle dazzle, they were asking, how do you do it for free? You know, like a lot of pro GMs and DMs and narrators and directors and all the other fun words that TTRPGs use for their for the people who run the game. You know, they said like lights are cool and music is cool, but how does a newbie DM control like the yapping and get the attention of the players? You know, if they're not people who are like me, a professional voice actor or trained in improv comedy and know how to sort of handle other people's energy in a scene, how do they try to get everyone's attention? I'm gonna be honest. This is one of those things where being a theater kid, and a lot of people I think will agree if they are theater kids, is when you do theater, they teach you how to speak from the diaphragm, which is rather than trying to constrain and constrict your throat to make yourself sound louder and stuff, it's about taking a deep breath in, and as that voice comes out and you push the air out, you're not doing it and creating that pressure by constricting your throat and doing it like this. You're letting it all out and it's coming from your chest. So the additional pressure is just straight up additional air being controlled by your entire torso. And that's what speaking from the diaphragm is. I've found that knowing how to do that voice, and it's not like a professional voice actor voice, right? It's just knowing how to do that and use your theater kid voice has a similar effect to like a scene in a movie or a TV show where like you have all the chattering and the yapping, and then like one person speaks in a like some kind of commanding voice, and suddenly everybody turns around and says, what is the main character going to say in this moment? Or I don't know, the big buff tavern owner or something who's breaking up a fight. And that's, and maybe, you know, some people are shy and stuff, so I'll give you guys another way to sort of get everybody's attention when you're having trouble sort of corralling the cats. Because sometimes I know that GMing can feel like you're wrangling cats. So another thing that is really useful, and I'm gonna out myself here, but as somebody who has done like teaching before, if you can hear me, clap once, and then everyone claps, and then if you can hear me, clap twice, and then everyone claps again. I can't tell you how, because I have a burlesque troupe, right, and it's a lot of neurodivergent people, some of whom are barely discovering that they have ADHD, even though they are probably more presenting than I am. Hey, it's Salty Nick. Oh, it's so nice when all my friends show up. But anyway, so even with my burlesque troupe, you know, these are all people who are my age. Some of them are older, and I will literally use the, if you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. Honestly, it works so well. It works so freaking well. And you would think that they'd be insulted by it, but I think that if you have cool friends who understand that you took time probably out of your personal life to arrange this adventure, or, you know, study the rules and are helping them with their character sheets and stuff like that, you know, they have this sort of mutual understanding that you are doing a lot already, and so, you know, the least they can do is give you their attention. Also, I put too much leave-in conditioner and now it looks like I have spaghetti hair. Or maybe I'm going bald. That's neither here nor there. Okay. So anyway, yeah, as far as commanding attention, I would say that that's one of my those are two of my biggest tricks. Also, getting into some more nitty-gritty, like in the session stuff. Let's see. As far as preparing the session, and I will say though that this does. And one of the other questions was, how do you handle party chatter? Like if the players are talking amongst themselves but not playing. Yeah, that's the same answer, I would say. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. The other thing I will say that the other thing I will say that helps a lot is giving people focus, right? And this is like using the techniques I remember teachers used on most of us growing up, but then like for good, right? It's not make somebody the center of attention to embarrass them, but oftentimes if you put the spotlight, and I'm not talking about like Daggerheart's mechanical spotlight term, right? And honestly, I think they were just trying to speak in layman's terms. I feel like people have taken the idea of like mechanicizing spotlight and the way Daggerheart uses it and gone just like way overboard with overthinking that, when really they're just trying to say like who's the focal point of the scene in the moment. But anyway, so giving somebody, like a specific player, the spotlight suddenly makes one, whoever that player is, tune in, because you were talking to them, right? And they want to know, what is the cool thing that's about to happen to my character? Or the scary thing, or the bad thing, right? Also, if something is happening directly to another person at the table, somebody in their group, a lot of times that will cause other party members to suddenly go, oh no, what's happening to the cleric? Especially because clerics are super important for the party. So if your cleric dies, that means that it is inevitable that you are all going to die as well. In the game, unless your GM rolls like that, in which case, whoa, get out of that game. What else? So yeah, I would say that focusing in on specific players is very, very helpful for grabbing their attention. Especially like, you know, and I know some people are not big on the eye contact thing, and believe me, I'm autistic. So, oh, hi everybody, I have ADHD and I'm autistic, and I have an anxiety disorder. So as I say all of this stuff, and everyone goes, well, Nico de Gallo just doesn't get it. I get it so much harder than you realize, and I'm giving you this advice having come out on the other side and figured these things out for myself, because I didn't know I had a lot of these things, so I had to create a lot of my own tricks and overcome a lot of my own obstacles without any outside help to teach me how to do that. And then get diagnosed as an adult, and then discover everything I've taught myself is like coping mechanisms that they teach you on day one of finding out you have like ADHD and stuff, and I could have just been living like that the whole time. Let's see, an American school. Oh, Nick, it's literally, say that out loud when your table is chatting, and watch the way, like, I can explain it to you, but the next time you have a table and everyone's chatting, say, if you can hear me, clap once, watch what happens, and follow up with, if you can hear me, clap twice. And I guarantee you everyone will shut up. So fast. So fast. Let's see. Also, you know, the people who didn't clap the first time are like, oh man, there's like a bandwagon I'm supposed to be hopping on board, and I'm not hopping on board that. And so that'll usually get them, because nobody wants to be like the one person who didn't get the memo of what everyone else at the table's doing, which is clapping. But anyway, so you focus on players, you focus on them, and you say, you're getting a vision, right? And you see this thing, you feel this way, and you start really describing, and you start asking them questions too, right? And it works on so many people. So believe it or not, this actually, I will say, asking them questions. And again, I'm just, for newer GMs, by the way, Daggerheart is, I would say, made for people expecting Daggerheart to be like baby's first TTRPG, right? A lot of people are coming into Daggerheart with, like, they're very D&D pilled, so they're trying to, like, overcomplicate a lot of the mechanics or look at it through, like, the lens of that. And if you do start with a TTRPG, don't start with D&D. It's so much more complicated than I realized until I started playing most other games, honestly. Pathfinder is the exception. Pathfinder is objectively crunchier than D&D. But asking players questions is like something that they really hype up in the CRB for Daggerheart core rulebook. And that's something that I've been doing for a long time. Because when you start asking your players questions, they're tuned in. They're creating things. And, asking them questions about, like, the name of an NPC, not just a random one they meet in the town, right? Somebody from their backstory. Suddenly, they very much care about the name of that NPC and what's going on now. But other things, too, related directly to their character are things I'd like to ask, like, as you fire this fireball, what does it look like as you cast it, right? Stuff that's like flavor, and flavor is free, but stuff that's flavor that lets them paint the picture of how cool their character is, right? Because everybody wants to feel cool in a fantasy TTRPG where, we're shooting fireballs and fire bolts and fire hands and bonfires. I was just trying to think of more ways. Walls of fire, pillars of fire, but sacred flames, which is technically not fire. But anyway, they all want to, we're all doing this to feel cool and explore this fantasy version of ourselves, right? Or this alter ego that we're kind of transforming into for the session. So that's why I find, that's why I find that asking them to tell me how cool they are basically makes them go, oh, I want to show you how I cut this dude's head off, because it's, whoa, it's really, really cool. Check this out. And then as they describe it, right, now they're tuned in, and also everybody else starts tuning in because they want their chance to do that too, right? Oh wow, they sounded awesome when they cut that dude's head off. I want to explain how I do the same thing, and now suddenly they're also starting to give you stuff to work with, and I think that that's like a really powerful tool in getting your players' attention. It's not about getting their attention and grabbing it and stealing it and yanking it or whatever, commanding their attention. Sometimes, and very often, getting your players' attention is actually about getting them to give you their attention and requesting it that way. Flaming Sphere, thank you. Also, good night, Talking Crit RPGs. Oh, good night, Nick, as well. But anyway, so yes, I would say that asking your players questions and then having them help sort of paint the picture of what their character is doing, like, locks them in, right? Suddenly their brain is trying to see in terms of what's going on. And then, here, I'm gonna put my hair behind like this. Okay, there we go. But yeah, so I would say that that's very helpful. Other stuff that helps me keep or enrapture my players, I would say I have some benefits that other people don't. If you can't tell by the way that I can command my voice this way, I am a professionally trained voice actor. I've been doing this for about 5 years now. I've been in various video games like Honkai Star Rail, as well as the national, I don't remember what the full acronym stands for, but NHTSA, which was just about like buckling your seatbelt in the car and stuff. Oh, hi, welcome back then. I just realized now, talking Crit RPGs, that you were saying goodnight to Nick, and my bad. I was like, oh no, everyone's going to bed. But the voices really help. And I know that a lot of people are very intimidated by that, but you really don't need to do those voices either. The alternative is making the people you're doing the voices for interesting on their own, right? So I found that a lot of people, they think the only way to make an NPC interesting is by giving them, you know, like a fun and wacky voice, right? But that's really not the case. You can have characters that are just your regular voice, but you give them a reason for the party to care, right? So if they're at a tavern, no, a blacksmith, let's do that. Magic shop owner, something like that, right? Give them something that they are like afraid of, or give them like a quirk, like a weird, funny thing that they keep saying or that they keep doing, right? I actually had a tavern owner. In fact, I tied it into the adventure itself, but it was a town that was like being controlled by an aboleth, and not everyone was part of this, right? Some people seemed to be resistant to the sort of indoctrination of the aboleth's cult, because it's just boring if everyone's just already in the cult or mind controlled, right? It's just a very one-dimensional problem, in my opinion. So there were some people who like they weren't mind controlled by the aboleth, but they didn't want everyone to know that they weren't mind controlled by the aboleth. So every time they would talk to other people in the town, it was like they would always hedge things that they said, where it was like let's say the aboleth's name is like Gargle. I can't remember what it was called, but you know, the tavern owner would be like, yeah, drinks on me. Sorry, let me do it in my own voice. Drinks on me, everybody. Drinks on me. You get an ale. You get an ale. Praise Gargle. Praise Gargly Margly. Yeah. Praise Gargly Margly. And hey, what's up? Praise Gargly Margly. Am I right? Yeah. And it was just this weird, goofy thing where they always seemed like a little nervous. Yeah, because anyway, the weather's been pretty wild, right? I mean, it's crazy weather we're having around here. Praise Gargle, praise Gargle, praise Gargle. And by having this NPC just like twitchy and constant, like very clearly overselling this, right? That alone kind of gave away to the PCs like there's something goofy or off about this guy. And so that obviously leads them to going, hey, what's the deal? And then the NPC explains, you know, the people around here seem to really like this Gargle guy, and I'm pretty sure it's like some kind of eldritch horror or something. So I don't want to get my brain eaten or become enslaved, or whatever it is that they do. So, you know, praise Gargle, am I right? Am I right? Praise Gargle, right? Yeah. Oh my God, get me out of here. And immediately, oh golly, I can't even remember that NPC's name. But my players thought it was every time I did that bit too. And there's some bits that you can do in a game where if it keeps coming up naturally, it just becomes funnier, right? Each time it comes up, even if the players know it's coming, as long as you're not forcing it, right? It's you know, for whatever reason they go back to the tavern, or it happens that they encounter townspeople, or you know, some folks have gone missing, and then one of the people that went missing, it turns out when they find these prisoners, was that barkeep. And he's like, oh man, I have no idea why I'm here. This is super messed up, but But you know, I guess it's all for the best, right? Praise Gargle, right? Praise Gargle, am I right? Of course, yeah, praise Gargle. Please, I swear, I think they're going to eat me, and I don't want to be here. Please get me out of here. Again, I don't know. It clearly made more sense in the session, but they found that hilarious. Also, bits. Having bits. This might be my improv comedy bit. Training coming out in the background from who I am, but in comedy, right? A joke that is more than just like a joke and a punchline. That's what we call a bit. And having bits that sort of build in a scene, right? There's that sort of expectation, and I think we've all probably heard a phrase called the rule of threes, and it comes out in a lot of stuff, but it also very much is true in comedy, right? There's this idea that there's like a 1, 2, 3 as far as jokes and bits can go, right? So when you start having a bit, some kind of comedy bit build up in a scene, the players, once they start to realize that that's happening, they start tuning in because they want to hear the punchline. They want to know the joke. Or with the tavern owner, right? Like knowing that this line would keep on coming up, they started tuning in because they wanted to hear what the next, when the next punchline is, when the next quip was, or whatever. And so having something, that's a good transition into this next tip. Having something for the players to anticipate. Because you really want them to get swept up in the anticipation. You really want them to be expecting something and kind of be like, yeah, and then clock in whatever it is you're talking about. So yeah, getting your players to anticipate something, and that doesn't have to be comedy. That doesn't have to be punchlines and jokes. Hold on, I turned on the fan to cool myself down, and now I'm just getting like little flyaway hairs tickling my face. So let me turn it off. Okay, there we go. So, now I can put my hair down. But yeah, so getting them to anticipate something. Okay, a really good way to get your players to anticipate something is you see? Dramatic pauses. When they know something is coming, right? Or you build up something really big and important, and then you give a little pause, right? Like a little moment that they don't just hear it right away. They need to go, what is the thing? Or, sometimes, and that you can do this honestly, even when you're telling a regular story at a party, right? But basically, and what I found inside the chest was... People are going to want to know what's inside that chest. I guarantee it. Every time. So having like that sort of feeling of, we'll tell you how this goes after a commercial break. I find that recreating that anticipation can really, really help get your players sort of wrapped up in the moment. Let's see, what else? Let me check the chat to see if folks have additional questions. By the way, chat, please ask away as far as questions go. If you have anything about running games, right, that has it's like been difficult for you, or if you have like things that you'd like to do or pull off as far as getting people interested or excited about your games, because one thing also that I'm thinking of is I've had somebody told me, well, how we don't have professional GMing dough, to spend on stuff. And I probably have less money than most people do for this stuff because of the professional GMing, because I'm gonna be honest, I mean, I'm not exactly rolling in it. Otherwise, I'd pay somebody to put up that sound treating foam. But I will say that, like, for some people, especially if you're playing like a more tactical table, because I wouldn't say that that's necessarily limited to a specific game. Some people, they really like the visual of maps, and a lot of people are like, I can't afford a subscription to Chepeku Maps. Have you Googled maps? Have you typed in the phrase D&D maps and seen how many things come up? It is so many things that come up. There's even isometric maps. I'm talking about, like, in the Sega days where it was like those maps that are like 3D grids, right? That add that like third dimension. They have isometric maps online that you can use, which are fantastic. Epic Isometric is somebody that I really like their maps, and every now and then they release like free ones too. But you can find isometric, by the way, is the term, and I'm going to type it in the chat here. And they are called Epic Isometric, but I don't want this to turn into an advertisement. So yeah, isometric maps are very, very fun for D&D players because it's such a shift from the typical overhead view. And they also sell like isometric minis and tokens that you can use for your tables. People seem to love that. So yeah, isometric maps are very fun for giving people visuals and having them make their own tokens. I know some people are like, well, I don't want to onload or offload homework onto the players, but have them, give them a link to a token creation website. There's plenty. Type in free D&D token creator, or TTRPG token creator, and there's websites that make, the little circular tokens that you can just drop into a game. I spit everywhere, sorry. Also, that was like cottonmouth foamy spit, so I'm gonna... Which, doesn't even matter the quality of your spit. Some people would pay good money for that, and we should all acknowledge that. I saw a video about people talking about how folks with ADHD drink water, and the reason we drink water the way we do, like with the gusto that we do, is because we get so distracted that we forget to drink any water all day long. So by the time we have that glass, it's like the first drink of water we've had for hours. That's so true. That's so true. But anyway, so let's see. We've talked about having NPCs have bits and little things that make them interesting or make your players want to tune into them. We've discussed having just bits for the scene. We've discussed creating anticipation for your players, getting them to sort of tune in because there's something that they want to know, information that they know is coming and they want to know that info. What else have we discussed? We've discussed... Oh, if you can hear me clap once and if you can hear me clap twice. We've discussed free resources. Yeah, and I'll talk more about that. There are so many free resources, right? So free maps is a good one. Owlbear Rodeo, just as a generality, and I'm going to put that out there, right? Everybody thinks that to run a VTT, they have to use these super just... Guys, there are so many tables that have been playing D&D together for years, and they don't have, like, LED screens and fog machines running while they are running their games. It's just, like, good friends having a good time, going on a fun adventure with a simple map and maybe some tokens. Oh, by the way, if you know anyone who makes buttons, like little 1-inch, buttons that you can pin on, just take away the pokey pin part, and those buttons, That's tokens right there. In fact, all of the flat 2D circular tokens that I use in person, I have a friend who does like graphic design, and she'll, you know, I'll send her batches of characters and stuff, and I just send her, you know, maybe, I'm not gonna actually say what her rates are, but I'm her friend, so I'm their friend, so they charge me a very reasonable amount. But there's plenty of people who have button makers or make buttons. I'm sure you can find them. Or like print shops and stuff can also make you buttons, and you just order small batches of buttons as tokens, and those work great in person. But again, you can make the digital ones online as well. There's so many free resources. In fact, there are tokens that are like they look like overheads of miniatures, right? So it's not just like a circle with like a portrait in it. It looks like you see the top of the head and the shoulders of the monster, right? So there's plenty of really cool stuff like that online that you can find, and adds that visual component. But Owlbear Rodeo, as far as VTTs go, golly. And Kenku FM, which is made by the developers behind Owlbear Rodeo. Kenku FM, effectively, essentially it's a browser, but you can tie it to your Discord servers. So if you are running games on Discord, right, you can have Kenku FM playing, and then choose the voice channel in Kenku FM to broadcast the music to, and it joins the call as though it's a person in the call, but what's streaming out of its microphone is the music that you're playing, that's actually what I'm using to run my music right now. So you can even pull up like songs and sound effects on YouTube while you are running the game in your browser, in your Kenku FM browser, and all that stuff just starts playing in the Discord call. And so that's a great way to add music and stuff to your games. And Kenku FM is totally free. And Owlbear Rodeo is also totally free. You don't need any money to make an account or make a room to add people into it. Your friends too they don't even need an account at all to join your room. You just drop a link and they can just join your room. But Owlbear Rodeo has extensions, right? And it's not like these super complicated ones that you need to be a borderline programmer to run like on Foundry, which I'm sorry, but there are so many games that like you just don't need all that crap. In fact, I know that like a big thing that people love about VTTs is that you can roll the dice on there, and some people don't own dice, right? That's a luxury. I am a person who has a 3D printed dice roller with my brand name on it, and every side of this is another case that has a full 7 set of dice in it. I've got dice trays and stuff, you know. Let's see, even I got this at a Renfest. This is a dice holder, and if I open it up, this is a set of metal dice that I got for Christmas. But my point is, a lot of people also really like to roll dice, right? And that's why it's the logo for so many D&D channels and TTRPG channels, right? These dice. And I hate to sound like a purist, right? But it really does suck something out of TTRPGs to roll digital dice, especially if you are a person like me who's a little dice goblin. I love buying cool new dice, especially if I can get them for cheap. I even have, get this. Okay, actually, I'll show you as my next thing. But I have dice that have sentimental value because they are gifts that I got for Christmas or from family members. Gifts that sometimes they went traveling and they saw a cool set of dice while they were traveling abroad and they thought of me, and so they got me that set of dice. So I want to roll my dice. So something that helps, especially if you have players with like ADHD and stuff. I don't know if you've never played at a table. You don't need to look over their shoulder and see everything that they roll. Just let them roll their dice. My players really like that. honestly, they even the ones online, they get so excited to pull out their dice and then grab their dice and put them up to the camera and show the screen. Or when they roll like a nat 20, they'll yank their webcam off of their monitor and like point it down at the D20 to show that they got a nat 20. And so the thing about the digital dice, right, is it kind of takes that away from them, and it also makes every die that they've bought essentially like a waste of money, right? So make dice important again by just letting your players roll dice. And you know what? I don't really worry about my players lying because they're not bratty children. They are full-grown adults. We all got together to have a good time. And like, and you know what? If they do lie, that's on them, right? They're sucking that joy out of their own experience. And I think that there's a lot of people who maybe when they started playing TTRPGs were inclined to fudge their own dice rolls. And I think you start to learn that the game just isn't fun if you control it like that. But I'll get off my soapbox there. Embrace the singular dice, sure. Sure. But, yeah, so giving them some little basically giving them fidget toys, right? And that's what dice are in a way, is fidget toys for people who have ADHD. By the way, if you have ADHD, rolling physical dice when you're playing, even if it's remote, golly, I can't tell you how much that helps me stay like tuned in. And other fiddly bits, right? Fiddly bits in general are great for people with ADHD, and keeping their attention sort of on the game. So yeah, Owlbear Rodeo has, besides extensions for digital dice, which I may have gone on a bit of a tangent there, they also have like a weather extension, so you can make it look like it's snowing, like it's raining fire, or there's smoke everywhere, like it's a sandstorm. There's all these cool digital animated overlays that you can put on, and again, that extension totally free. But it looks cool. It looks really cool. Also, some people will make digital animated tokens, and that can be fun too, right? I'm big on trying to recreate or simulate the experience of really being at a table. So something that helps with remote games is also pushing people to have their camera on. And I know that's not for everyone, right? I'm not going to force anybody to do something they're just straight up uncomfortable with, right? And you never should. As like a rule, as a human being, you shouldn't do that. But I part of the thing about me saying earlier that I'm autistic, right, is I already struggle so much with like social cues and things like that. And so physical cues it's not a vibe I have to pick up on sometimes. It's like I can quite literally see somebody's like mouth, doing that, and it's like I clock it as, yeah, they're trying to speak. I literally can't know you are trying to speak or want to say anything if you are invisible to me, right? So I will often, and that's something that I noticed too between playing games both remotely and in person, right, is I could pick up on those cues when I was playing in person, and I lost that when we were playing online. So encouraging people to be on camera during your remote sessions, just like they would be visible in person, can really help keep people locked in and actually caring about what's going on, because especially if you have players who love to talk with their hands and stuff, like this will grab people's attention. And this one's me, all right? I do this both in person and remotely, but here's a big thing that I will say is great for grabbing people's attention. This is probably my number one tip, and it's not going to work for everyone, right? Or you're just not going to want to do it. Again, can't make you do something you don't want to do, right? But you want them to be immersed, right? Frickin' get up, move around, do things. I literally just yesterday, I ran like a Western themed session. I grabbed a cowboy hat out of my costume closet. I had that ready to go. And when that cowboy came on, I was gonna say came on screen, but well, I guess it was on screen technically because it was a remote game and I was using my webcam. But you know, when that cowboy came on screen, I put the freaking cowboy hat on. And you don't have to do that, right? But, you know, I'm walking around, I'm giving them physicality. I had some players, we were playing D&D, they went to a Temple of Agma, which is also a library in the game, and they met this, like, kooky fae person, right? But as the kooky fae person is doing their thing, I was walking around amongst the table, right? I was being kooky. And guess what? You know, in a goofy, fun campaign environment, if that's what you're trying to create, that's a great way to do it. And some people will go, well, I'm not trying to do like a goofy, fun, kooky campaign environment. Okay, guess what? It works the same thing. The same thing works the same way if you do it seriously. You know, if they are at like a military war camp, having that general, you know, put your hands behind your back and walk with that commanding presence around the table. And you don't have to jump around, you don't have to yell, right? But suddenly, your players' eyes, they are up. They're looking at you. They want to see what you're about to do. They want to see who you're about to speak to. You're not orating at a table to a bunch of people anymore and just, you know, to this sort of generic audience, right? They are in the scene. It is not a scene that is happening at the edge of the table where you are sitting. It is now a scene that is literally enveloping the whole table. And you know what? Again, not everybody has that sort of theatrical bone in their body, right? But I also did make the thumbnail, the old Razzle Dazzle, right? So if you really want to go the extra mile, I'm a showman. And I say showman like gender neutrally because I'm non-binary, but I'm a show person, and which I realize is a perfectly valid alternative term. But yes, I'm a show person. You know, I host live shows, I host burlesque shows, I used to host trivia, I used to host drag bingo, and this is what I throw into my games. I throw 110% of who I am when I run these games because I want my players to have this amazing time. And that's the same thing I do when I'm on a stage, when I have the microphone, right? I mean, part of it is hugely the game, like the event itself, right? If it's burlesque, obviously people are there to watch people get naked. If it's a D&D game, people are there to roll dice, right? There's no reason you can't make it more of a production though, right? If the fun part for them is the combat and rolling the dice, right? And that's what they're there for. They love the dice. They love to shoot their fireballs. Cool. But at some point, you're going to have to explain what happens when that fireball explodes, right? Throw your back into it. Really give them the old, shouldn't have done that because I hurt my back at the gym today. But seriously, it like I know people can be like embarrassed or shy, and I get that. I totally get that, right? But is it about embarrassing yourself, or is it about like giving it 110% for your players? I think that's what it's really about. That's what the old Razzle Dazzle's about. It's about throwing the glitter at them. It's about, you know, it's about throwing your hands up. It's about raising your voice, and not to be an a-hole, right? It's about raising your voice because you're not shy to pretend to be some goofy, frolicky little gnome or fey creature or something. And that's how I got my little brother into D&D. My little brother had never played D&D before, and a year or two later, we're still doing our Out of the Abyss campaign, which is probably going to wrap up this coming year. And guess who went to the Renfest this past month full body paint as an orc, like their character? You know? I do not regret making a fool out of myself all the times I was just like goofy and over the top because I made memories for that person. And you know, it's not just my brother. It's people, friends that I've made through gaming, or people who have joined my paid games who are friends of mine, but they joined the paid game because they wanted to support me, because I'm sorry, but having other jobs kind of sucks when you hate what you do, or your heart's not in it, right? And this is something that I love. And so to honor those people, those friends who chose to join my paid games to support my life, I'm going to give them everything I have. And again, not everyone wants to do that, and I totally get it. But also, you know, maybe do it for yourself. Do it for the kid inside. Do it for that little goofball that wants to be a little gnome, or quirky little dwarf, or an ethereal elf, right? Live the fantasy. It's a fantasy TTRPG. Whoa, I got so into that speech, but I think now is time for me to rest that back. I should not have twerked to prove a point. But chat, any questions? Because I think I'd like to open it up to Q&A. I know we got like 4 people in here. So if there are any specific questions that people would like to ask, I would be happy to answer them. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Nope. I don't see any questions. Twin Steel or Questboard Terrain. Do you guys have any questions or things you'd like to ask? Or Talking Crit RPGs. I'm not sure who exactly is in the chat anymore. Let's see. But if anybody else is in the chat, I feel like, let's see, I talked about like visuals and stuff like that. Oh, and I mentioned Fiddly Bits earlier. Little tokens and stuff. If you are playing, if you're playing like D&D, I actually... These were actually drink tokens at an event I went to, and I don't drink, so I just had the tokens at the end of the night. I didn't even realize I took them home. But, like, I will give my players actual tokens as heroic inspiration, and them having, like, something to play. I actually have fidget coins. They're, like, a ring with an actual coin that you can, like, that spins on the inside. And, my players actually hate to spend their inspiration because they love having the fidget coins so much. What other systems have I run besides D&D and Daggerheart? I bought the introductory adventure for Draw Steel, read it, and then nobody wanted to play it with me because I had just introduced my group to Daggerheart, and they all loved Daggerheart so much because it's so much less crunchy than D&D. So when I tried to explain to them that, like, oh, well, I mean, it's, you know, Draw Steel is crunchy like D&D, but like in a more intuitive way that flows better into itself. Like, it's not so like, it's more like, you know, the rhythm is what I'm trying to describe. Nobody wanted to play it. I'm actually trying to get a group together, Twin Steel, if you'd like to play. There's a one-page TTRPG called Goblins with a Fat Ass. I'm not even making that up. That is the name of the TTRPG. If you would like, I really want to run Goblins with a Fat Ass. Also, other TTRPGs I have run Pathfinder. Pathfinder is just, like I said, like objectively more crunchy than D&D. And I found that Pathfinder or like even D&D feels like running D&D after running Pathfinder with running D&D after running Daggerheart with how streamlined Daggerheart is feels like driving a car with a messed up transmission. You know, the way it like jerks and stuff. Because there's just like a lot more things I have to pay attention to. Pathfinder is like that to an extent. There's so many subsystems, and also the only place I have to play Pathfinder around here is my local Pathfinder Society games, and you really have to play rules as written in those. And there is just no way I can comprehend all of the systems and the subsystems and the subsystems. So glad you're into goblins with a fat ass. Let's see. OBR is my favorite. What is my second favorite? I've enjoyed games that were run on Foundry. Yeah, I've enjoyed games that were run on Foundry. Although I will say that it edges into feeling almost like I'm playing a video game. Where, like, somebody had this really cool effect where their NPCs, they had the little overhead NPC tokens where it looked like little overheads of little figurines, miniatures. But they had also put them on, like, a route. Like extras in a movie who have to walk around in circles or paths and stuff like that. So it was like a dockside harbor. It was a harbor. It was like a dockside scene, and all the NPCs were like walking around like little actual like video game NPCs. It was so strange, and I was like, whoa, I feel like I'm playing a video game. And at the time it was very, very cool. And you can do stuff like that with Foundry, and if that's your thing, I think that's awesome. And I have like I said, I very much enjoyed games that are like that. But again, it ends up being less and less and less the experience of being at a table for me. And that experience of being at the table with your friends and stuff is, I think, that simplicity is something that I really, really enjoy. In spite of how goofy and over the top I am with everything else. And then let's see. I'm trying to think. I used to use Roll20, but I think it was like shortly after that I switched to Owlbear Rodeo, and Roll20 at the time was kind of like it just felt like it was built in 2002, you know, like it was just very like really laggy, and it was just like I don't know. It was at the time I wanted something that was smooth where I could just throw maps down and some tokens and just like go. And I think that was around when I found Owlbear Rodeo in the first place, and I was like, oh, I'm never going back. It's just so smooth. Let's see. I used to use Roll20. I've been on Foundry for games with double crit fail. Dude, I would love to play a game with double crit fail. They seem so fun. Double crit fail. If you see this, I want you to know I would love to be in one of your games someday. Anyway, I did a video with them, by the way. Tagged them as a collaborator. But I've never run one. We've got a team working on a Foundry module. Oh, that's the other thing. I am so curious about Nimble. I would love for somebody to run like a Nimble game. And I think that like the whole point of Nimble, and that's, by the way, that's the other thing about people who use Foundry VTT, is it can do so much, but with games, I mean, even with D&D to an extent, but like Daggerheart, but especially Nimble, which the whole point of Nimble is like to simplify and streamline D&D. It's like, why am I even having to rely on a digital tool to play or run a game when the whole selling point about that game is how simple and streamlined it is, you know? So if you're ever down to run Nimble and you want to see how like Owlbear Rodeo works, dude, I will show you, and in 10 minutes you will be a Pokemon master. Let's see. Oh, okay. I'll look into his Discord server. Thank you for the heads up. But okay, I think I think I've done my hour of live stream. I feel good about myself. I feel like I gave good information. So without further ado, I think it's about time to wrap it up. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you asked any questions to my friends who showed up, I want to thank Twin Steel. You're a real one, and I love having you in my comment section all the time. I mean, honestly, dude, sometimes just getting your comment puts the wind in my sails, and I'm not even exaggerating that, man. Thank you so much for helping me out and being a supporter. Questboard Terrain, also thank you so much for showing up to this live stream. I feel like I don't see you often enough in the voice chats, but I really do appreciate you showing up here too. I want to also thank Talking Crit RPGs. They have a really cool Discord server. And it's a community specifically for people who are not trying to play D&D, but like are really into TTRPGs, but like there's already so much out there for D&D. It's like a place for just non-D&D TTRPGs. So check out Talking Crit and their Discord server. Salty Nick, really cool dude. I'm gonna be so real with you. His voice and his videos, like totally unintentional, totally trigger my ASMR because he's just like talking super gently and doing calligraphy. And also Fallen Monk D20, thank you for showing up earlier. I really appreciated that. And Misty Steps for giving me ideas for questions to answer, which really got me to take off and stuff. So everybody have a good night, have a safe weekend, and again, thank you for tuning in.